Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to introduce Jennifer Stebbing. Jennifer is a founding partner of Stebbing Butcher PC, a boutique estate and trust planning and administration firm in Brantford. Jennifer completed her Bachelor of Arts with honors at the University of Windsor in International Relations and went on to complete an LLB at the University of Ottawa and a JD at Michigan State University with a specialization in international law and both with cum laude honors. She participated in various MOOCs and worked on two journals, the Michigan State University College of Law International Law Review and University of Ottawa Law and Technology Journal. Jennifer completed her LLM specializing in tax at Osgoode Hall Law School in June 2019. She earned the Law Society of Ontario Certified Specialist Designation in Estates and Trusts in 2020 and received her TEP designation in 2021. She also has the EPC and CPCA designations. Jennifer is a volunteer at heart and is involved in many different local organizations and spends her spare time hiking and participating in various community events. Take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm happy to be back here with you. And this time we're talking about financial abuse in seniors. And so this presentation is going to kind of go through what is financial abuse, how can you protect yourself, like red flags, how you can also talk to someone else about it if you're concerned something's happening to them. And then I'll give you some resources, like local resources that you could call if you think something is going on or if you just have a question. So, my usual disclaimer. This is not legal advice. This is intended as a general presentation. It might not apply in all circumstances, but it's general advice that you can use going forward to help protect yourself. As you know, this is a group setting, so there's no confidentiality. Any questions at the end, you can always feel free to say my friend instead of saying it's your own situation if you want to keep it less personal. You already know who I am from that great introduction, so I'll skip that. And my purpose for this session for you is to empower you to understand and protect your own rights, protect yourself. So our objectives. We're going to define what financial abuse is. We're going to recognize the common signs and scams. I'm going to let you know about Ontario's legal tools and reporting options. And then I also have kind of an immediate checklist if you think it's suspected, as in so it's happening to somebody else, or if the red flags come up a little late for you, or not sure what's going on. What are the things you should do right away to try and protect yourself? So I will be sharing my presentation, so you guys can get that from the GRCOA. But I do actually have a handout this time as well, and I'll make sure that gets sent out to you as well. So financial abuse. Taking, using, or controlling your money without informed consent. If you were at my last presentation, we talked about consent. What is informed consent? So informed, you have to know, and the consent has to be voluntary. So that's part of the controlling. It could be something as simple as like your kids have moved back into you. They don't pay rent. They don't pay for any of the bills. They don't pay for groceries. They don't cook any of the food. That can be seen as financial abuse because you are now spending twice or three times as much money as you used to because they're there doing that. Or it can be the usual basic kind of just straight stealing. They're taking 20 bucks out of your wallet. So that's kind of our spectrum on that. So it includes theft. It includes fraud. It includes pressure. And it also includes misuse of a power of attorney. So why does this matter? Why are people talking about it so much? Why is it such a big deal these days? One, it's getting easier because of the internet. But two, financial losses impact your own independence, your own health, and your housing. So if you lost your life savings today, would you be able to pay your property taxes? Would you be able to pay your utilities? Would you be able to buy yourself food? Would you be able to pay for a PSW to come and see you that's been coming every week for 2 years? So that's why it's so important and such an impact on seniors. You don't have the option of going back out to work and earning the money back. There's also emotional and physical consequences. The emotional consequences are just as we all know, when we make a mistake, we beat ourselves up about it. So it can lead to depression or other issues because you realize what's happened and you don't know how to get yourself out of the situation. Physical consequences, you lose your house, you lose your apartment, you're now homeless. What are you going to do? It's also underreported, and usually either shame, fear, or the person's isolated, but can also be because you're starting to lose capacity. You've got dementia setting in or something like that, and you might not be sure. Did I lose the money? Did someone take the money? What's going on? How much money did I used to have? You might be losing the understanding to know that that actually happened, and so it doesn't get reported. So who are the usual perpetrators? Who's doing this? There's family or intimate partners. In my practice, I see it more from kids than from the partner themselves, but it does happen. Caregivers or paid helpers. I find for that it kind of spiked 10 or 15 years ago, and it's coming back down, at least from what I see from my own observations. And I think one of the reasons it's coming back down is PSWs, nurses, and everything, they all have regulatory bodies now, and they have certain rules as part of the profession. So if your caregiver is stealing from you, they'll lose their job. They'll never work in that again. The legal consequences against them are very high now. So there's more of an incentive for caregivers or paid helpers to not do that. But be careful who you hire. I definitely, in this world, you get what you pay for, but research matters as well. If someone's really cheap to come and help, maybe that's because they know they can skim off of your wallet or something else. So be careful of those kinds of things. Trusted professionals, also not as common, but it can happen. Financial planners, they've got rules and regulations as well now, and a lot more strict compliance. So it's more rare, but it can happen. And then the last one's the most common one these days. It's scammers and fraudsters. So it used to be the person knocking on your door telling you need a subscription for your furnace fan or for putting new insulation in your roof or redoing your roof or those kind of things. So a lot of the door-to-door stuff has stopped because legislation has changed. But still phone, email, those kinds of things are still very common. I have to say mail too, for some people. Actually, seniors, like my generation, yes, I've always had mail, but I check it so infrequently now. It's very easy for me to toss something out, but not a part of my life. It's email is. But the scammers and fraudsters are getting better and better at being able to convince you that something is important and that you need to pay them something. So the common forms of abuse, like we said, theft and fraud, misuse of powers of attorney, undue influence or coercion. So that's when someone's just convincing you to do something. And then scams or exploitative sales. So I want to talk a little bit about the power of attorney misuse. I know I've done a presentation on powers of attorney, but didn't really get into how they can be misused, which really leads to the importance of who are you naming. Don't name someone just because they live close to you. Name someone because you can trust them. Because as you may recall from my previous presentation, if someone has your power of attorney for property, that's the financial one, they can do absolutely everything with your finances that you can do. There's only a couple of things they can't do. They can't make or change your will, and they can't change any beneficiary designations. But they can do everything else. They can drain your account. They can move your money to another bank. They can take your bank card. They can pay any bills with it, whether they're yours or not. And don't mistake what I'm saying with it that they're allowed to. It's just that they have that kind of access. There are rules around what a power of attorney is allowed to do, but they were talking about misuse. So they're not supposed to use it for their own personal benefit. If you still have capacity, they're supposed to only be using it pursuant to your instructions, what you've asked them to do, what you want them to do. But that doesn't mean they can't do something untoward and then you don't know. And then it's very difficult to get money back, but you can. But there's also fraudulent or coerced POAs. So, for example, in my office here, if you came in with, say it was your caregiver, your PSW, they come in and they say, I want to redo my power of attorney. I want to name my caregiver. Well, first of all, in my office, I wouldn't let your caregiver come into to meet with a lawyer. It would be just you meeting with a lawyer, and I would be asking you a lot of questions to make sure that you're not being coerced or forced into this. And if you have family nearby, like it would, we try our best to help you try and see if this is the best decision for you or not. There is a bit of a conflict of interest for a caregiver, someone that you're paying to be your power of attorney. So we'd explain that to you too. But sometimes it happens. Someone coerces you into naming them, and then you've got to fix that. If you have concerns about what your power of attorney is doing, anyone who's acting as your power of attorney has an obligation to account for what they do. And there's a very formulaic court process way to do that. But at a bare minimum, if you ask, they should be showing you your bank statements and they should be explaining every single transaction on them to you. Whether it's in writing or verbally, that's up to you. Whether it's formal, like an Excel spreadsheet, or informal, here's the bank statement, and they hand write in what the stuff was. The power of attorney should be keeping copies of all receipts, invoices, even if they just went and bought you groceries, they should keep that that receipt from the grocery store. And so that's a way that you can have a check and balance against the misuse, but you have the right to know what they're doing. So the kinds of scams that we see targeting seniors: emergency or grandparent scams. So this is like a phone call. Someone kind of sounds like one of your grandkids and says like, "Grandma, I made a really stupid decision last night. I'm in jail right now. They won't let me out unless you send them $10,000. You've got to do this." Or, "Oh, Grandma, remember I'm in Europe right now and I broke my leg. The hospital needs a deposit. You got to send money right now." So those things never happen. Police stations don't take wires. Neither do most hospitals. And there's no place in like Ontario where you're not being released because you have to pay money. You have to go to court for that to happen. You have to be remanded. So just know if someone's calling, the best way to deal with those ones is to say, "Okay, give me a minute," and just hang up the phone and just call that grandkid on their phone. And then they'll be able to tell you that it's not true because you'll actually get through to your grandchild. So that's the way to think. Everyone's calling like an emergency like that, saying, "Hold on a second, I'll call you back," and then call the right number. Tech support scams. So there's one recently, I think, in the city, where like their computer screen, they got this notice on there saying, "You've got a virus or something, you've got to call this number and pay a fee for us to unlock your computer." Those are all fake. They're not true. If something like that happens, just drive to your local, they don't call it Future Shop anymore, your so-called tech store. they'll have they'll have a young kid there that'll figure it out for you. But those are all scams. Romance and investment scams. So, a new person comes in your life, and all of a sudden you're spending all of your money, they're spending none of theirs, or they're trying to convince you maybe to help their kids with something, those kinds of things. Investment scams, crypto is the most common right now, or just trying to convince you to invest all your money somewhere else, even though you've had your stuff invested your whole life in one place. There's fake charities out there, and there's an easy way to check that one. The CRA website actually has a charity lookup on it, and so you can look up any of them, and it'll give you their charitable registration number. So if you have ever concerns about a charity being real or not, super easy to check that. Banking calls, emails, and actually text messages too. I used to get clients in my office, they'd show me their cell phone, and it would say, "This is BMO, your account's been frozen." And they would keep texting back saying, "I don't have a BMO account, stop texting me," without realizing that it's a scam. They shouldn't be texting back. Now the scammers know that their phone number's live and they come after them for something else. So if you get a bank call, a bank email, or a bank text message, they are 100% not from the bank. And if you're concerned they are, never reply to it. Just independently go check with your bank. So whether you go into the branch and ask them, "Is there something wrong with my account?" or you call your regular banking line and check, or you log in and by yourself, not clicking on a link, into your account and make sure everything's okay. So never click on a link, never reply, never respond. One I saw recently is fake concert tickets or show tickets. And part of that one is they wanted to be paid in gift cards. If somebody wants to be paid in gift cards or Apple, like to iTunes cards, that's completely fake, always fake. Spoofing, that one's the hardest one. So it'll look like it's coming from your bank, but it's not. If you look in the at, like bmo.com, something will be different in there. And so it's not from your bank. It's just that they're pretending to be that email address. There's been 2 recent examples. I just talked about the one here in Brantford, which was like that computer scam where it said your computer's locked out. The other one that was recent was out in British Columbia, and it was, to be honest, a brilliant scam. It was very well done. They had called them and said, look, we're having some issues with fraud where you have your money at the branch, and we were hoping you would help us catch them, but we want to make sure your money is safe. So can you transfer us your money, and then we'll keep it safe and we'll work on this. And like they had fake bank people call them, I think a fake MP's office. Like they had really thought this through and what they had done. But just know, like, that never happens. No bank, no police agency, no investigator is going to come and ask you to help them do something with your money. And then the scary stat. Canadians lost more than 643 million in bank fraud last year. That's a lot of money. They're getting increasingly sophisticated. They're getting better at doing it, and better at convincing people to do it themselves. So I would say, if anything is out of the ordinary, just don't do it. Nothing's going to happen. Some red flags to think of. So is the person calling or emailing asking you for your information? So like I once got a call, it was CRA, and they said, I just need to confirm I'm talking to you, Jennifer. What's your last name and date of birth? And I said, you're calling me. You should know that. I'm not telling you. And they got very irritated with me. And they said, well, you can call CRA back and see if it's really me. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that either. You called me. If you want to tell me something, you can tell me something, but I'm not telling you anything. And it turned out it was actually a legitimate call in the end, but it was the CRA employee acting inappropriately because they're not supposed to do that anyway. They shouldn't be asking me for my information if they called me. So if someone calls you and asks you for your information, don't tell them any. Like I said, payment of gift cards, not money, or mailing or couriering funds, because that's just weird. Behavioral things that you can think about. If they're insistent, so they keep pestering you like every day, you've got to send me this money, you've got to send me this money. They won't let you independently check what they're saying. They don't suggest, well, you can log in on your own and figure this out. Or they're convincing you not to talk to your spouse or talk to your family about it. They reach out frequently, so they check in like every day or twice a day. And they create a sense of urgency for you. So some tips on what do you do if you think someone else has been the victim of financial abuse. So a lot of people probably wouldn't want to have this conversation because they're going to be embarrassed. But I would say choose a calm and private moment, a private place to talk to them, and try and be as open and supportive as possible. And just ask them, like, how is it going? I'm a little concerned about these things. Can you help me understand what's going on? Or do you need some help? Or do you want me to review things with you? Do you want to go to the bank together and we can have them look at it and see if anything's going on? Try and offer them options and let them know they can always come to you if there's any questions or concerns or if they're worried about something. But it's very difficult, especially if the person is starting to lose capacity. Like as you start to lose your memory, sometimes you will accuse people of stealing money from you because you can't remember what happened to the money. Because that's what makes more sense in your head. It doesn't make sense in your head that you lost money, but it'd make more sense that someone stole it from you. So it can also be difficult because someone might be saying to you, there's someone stealing my money, but when you look at all the records, no one is. It's that person doing it. They just can't remember that they did it. So that's why it can be such a a difficult conversation and a difficult talk with someone. But if you're concerned, definitely have that conversation. If you're at the like alarm bell ringing concern phase and this person doesn't seem to understand, and depending how involved you are with them, it is an option for you to go to the bank and tell the bank you have these worries, and the bank might on their own freeze the accounts until it's sorted out. Another option is going to the public guardian and trustee, which I'll talk a bit more when I get to that slide. If it's happened to you or you're helping someone it's happened to them, what you want to do is to preserve all of the evidence that you found. So if there's emails, contracts, or bank statements, anything like that, anything physical written down, make sure you keep them in a safe place. Keep a dated timeline. So if it happened to you, the sooner you write it down from what you recall, the better, because our memories fade over time. So if you can figure out the timeline of what happened, then to write it down. And if it's still going on, like so the fraudster is still contacting you or the abuser, avoid direct confrontation with them. Just get yourself protected, and then the system will deal with it. So whether it's the police or another person to assist you with it. So there's some legal responses that you can have. So obviously first is criminal. So you can report this to the local police department. There's actually also a Canadian anti-fraud reporting center. They have an amazing website. So if you're ever unsure about something that's going on or something that you've heard from somebody else, they actually keep that website updated with anything they're aware of. So if you're concerned that someone's talking to you about something that is fraud, you can always check their website to see if it's on there, and you can just call them and ask them. They're a great resource. Police obviously are also a good resource as well, but as we know, like a lot of services, public services, they are strapped. So they do things in the order of A, urgency, but B, they concern more about life first, money second, because we can't get another life, but we can get more money. Civil. So restitution, that's like you're going to sue them to get your money back. And then guardianship, which we've kind of talked about before in one presentations. If you're concerned about somebody and they've lost capacity and they're being taken advantage of, guardianship would be like you going to court saying, can I be in charge of their money for them? Guardianship can actually also be used to remove a power of attorney and appoint somebody else in their place. So say you know someone is abusing a power of attorney, you can bring a guardianship application and say, this is what they're doing, I want to take over for them. And that would only need to be done in a situation where the person who's being abused has lost capacity. If they still have capacity, they can revoke the power of attorney and sign a new one. And then administrative. So like I said, the public guardian and trustee, they're kind of the first call sometimes I tell people to make if they're concerned about their parent being taken advantage of by a power of attorney, because the public guardian and trustee has the ability to require a power of attorney to account for what they're doing. They can move very, very quickly on that. They can also get bank records, force the freezing of accounts, can take over from the power of attorney much quicker than I would be able to do it with a client. They have some other legislation that they can work under. Now, again, like everything else, they're overworked, but they have an investigation team. They do get involved if you've got the stuff to show them that it needs to happen. And then, of course, all of our banks have a fraud team. And so you can always report things to them. You can also, if your issue is with the bank and you're worried about going to the fraud team, you can go to the ombudsman for any bank and report things to them, and they'll do an investigation as well. The other administrative to be aware of is any professional with a regulatory body, like I have the Law Society of Ontario, doctors have theirs, dentists have theirs, accountants have theirs, you can call them. Like I can be reported. So like, you can call them and the Law Society will like come and it's a weird process the Law Society does it, but you can report any professional to their regulatory body and they will be investigated. Same with nurses and things like that, and doctors, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of places you can go to report things, but the immediate concern is just making sure that it stops, and then we can deal with the repercussions of that. So the Ontario tools, I guess, are we do have a Power of Attorney Act, we have the Substitution Decisions Act, and that's what says what someone can or cannot do if they're acting in that position. So that's where the breaches would come from. The other interesting thing to know is if you have a power of attorney abusing their power, if it ends up going to court and the court says you owe this person $100,000 because of what you've done, and then they go and declare bankruptcy, because we put so much trust in a power of attorney, that debt actually survives bankruptcy. So that debt will stay with them forever till the day they die. There's no way for them to get rid of it unless they pay it. And that's just how the law recognizes that it is a huge trusting relationship, and they won't let anyone get out of abusing that ever. And then I've talked about PGT and reporting to police and banks. So our immediate checklist. If it's happening to you or happening to someone you know, first, make sure you're safe. Second, contact the police. Gather any documentary evidence you can find. Consider freezing all of the accounts, like say the person still has access. Even though it means you lose access if you freeze, at least it's stopped. And then we can figure things out from there. And then get legal advice, depending on what's going on and what it is. And we can see how we can put things back together. So all sorts of things we can do for prevention. Consider keeping a trusted contact list. There's also now with your financial planners, they're now required every year to ask you if you want to give them the name and the phone number of someone, a trusted person, that if they see something weird in your account or you ask them to do something that seems weird, that they're allowed to call that person and ask them. So all sorts of people, and even me, are not necessarily comfortable with that now because I'm losing some freedom. And the financial advisor is going to decide to tell someone something I might not want them to know. But it's a check and balance. And if you're comfortable with it, it's something you could do. Use alerts or dual signatures. So on my current bank account, which was a little annoying, but also helpful, I get a text message every time money comes in or out. And so I know what's going on. I don't even pay the bills, my husband does, but like, he gets a text message too. But it's just there in case we see something weird go through. And then dual signatures, that can help too. But it's harder these days because I don't do stuff by check. In the business sense, it helps. Like no money can move in my business without two people logging into the banking and signing off on it. But on the alert side, one of the things I do for my business is I actually get an alert if there's a transaction over a certain amount of dollars. And so that I find very helpful, because if money moves, like say my limit's $1 million, then at least I know right away when it happens, and I could possibly undo it if it wasn't proper. And to the best of my knowledge, you can do that on bank accounts as well. So you could have it send you an alert if there's a transaction over a certain amount. For powers of attorney, so you can limit them. They don't have to be, remember how I said they can do anything you can do but a couple of things? You can actually do a limited power of attorney and say you can only do these things. So if you don't have anyone else in your life, there's nothing else you can do, but you need someone to help you with your bills, you could actually just give them a power of attorney that says all they can do is pay your bills. And then they're limited to doing just that. Next is educate about scams. So coming to a presentation like this and learning about new scams, you can check out the Fraud Prevention Center's website that educates you about scams as well. Double check everything. If something seems weird, just stop and start over. The other thing I use this one. Most scams are talked about online. So Google what's going on, or Google the phone number or the email address. I do this all the time because with the business, I get all sorts of emails from people wanting to be clients, and half of them are scams. So I actually just take the email address and I put it in Google, and 99% of the time, the first search thing that comes up is like, that's a fake email address. So it's super helpful. Same with phone numbers. When I put the phone number in that somebody called me, it's like, this is known as a scam number. Um, so I find that fantastic. If you get a lot of phone calls, like scam phone calls, and you don't get any other phone calls that matter beyond like family and friends, if you have a cell phone, you can actually make it so it doesn't ring unless it's someone in your phone book. So you won't even get those phone calls anymore if you put that setting on your phone. We already talked about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, so call them, ask them, go to their website. They're very helpful. If you think it's a scam, don't respond. The more you respond, the more they try and keep you. They know your phone number's live. They now know they can get to you. Like we talked about, never provide information to the caller. Nothing. If it's real, they know who you are and they don't need to do that. And then check. Call or visit the bank yourself. Go to the website yourself, not from a link. Call your kids. They might know. Just check. So our local resources, we've got the Brantford Police Non-Emergency Line. There's an elder abuse network. It's resourced through Brant Victim Services, but they're there. We've got the Community Legal Clinic. The PGT number is there. The Anti-Fraud Center is there. All of the above, they have websites and emails as well. So if you prefer to write over phoning, by all means, you can do that. So your key takeaways. The abuse is actually common and often hidden. The earlier you realize it, the better. So if it's happening to you, just tell someone right away because they might be able to undo it all if they know. And use your legal and community resources that are there for you. There's lots of resources. A lot of the phone numbers are 24/7. There's someone there to help you if you need it. There we go. We made it to the end. Feel free to ask me questions.